everyone. It's so bloody cold and wet and crap outside that we're back in the shed again because I can't bring myself to go out in that. It's horrible. So we'll take this opportunity to do some preventive maintenance. Not touching the engine today. That's all running fine, beautiful, no worries. But when I cleaned it after coming back from a ride, it was minging dirty. I cleaned it underneath and noticed quite a lot of rust on the centre stand. So I don't want that to get any worse. So I'm going to get that off. It's a good idea anyway, taking it off occasionally to grease the pivot. The pivot pin will seize up sometimes if it's left. So 2 birds with 1 stone, grease and clean the pivot, give the centre stand a nice coat of paint. And to try and help prevent that happening again, I've got myself a little mud flap for the front. Genuine Honda, made in Japan. So I'm going to stick that on the front mud guard somehow, just to stop the worst of the crap from coming off the front wheel and ruining the stand and making the underside of the engine all filthy like it was. Yeah, not bad. It was 11 quid on eBay, including the postage, from Goebbels Motorcycles. I've had one of these before and I've put it on my CT, my c90. It's quite thin and flexible, so on the front, if I run over a curb or do a bit of off-roading, it won't get caught in the brake or anything. It'll just bend out the way. Yeah, quite nice that. Really light as well. I don't particularly like drilling holes in the front mudguard though, but needs must. I'm going to drill some holes. So the first job, we'll jack it up with my homemade jack and get that stand off and see what state it's in, see if the pivot comes out or not. You can see the rust is quite bad. Look, there's no paint left on it. So that's what we need to take off, that little split pin there. That's the first job. Improvised hammer. That's the split pin out. Yeah, need to jack it up and just tap that pin out. So this job is escalated out of control quite quickly. I've got to take the exhaust off, which I thought would be the case, but I forgot that the rear brake pivot is all on the same pivot as the stand. So we're doing multiple jobs here all at once. So I'm going to take this exhaust off this here. So the bracket's out of the way so we can see what we're doing. Yeah, this isn't going to be a 5-minute job. Getting it all back together will be a bit of a nightmare, trying to line everything back up all at the same time. Because we've got the centre stand return spring and the brake spring to get back on. So it's all part of the fun, I suppose, isn't it? It's one of those jobs that need doing, because I hate seeing rust on my lovely car. So the exhaust is easy enough, isn't it? We did that when we did the engine. Let's get that out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. So now we can see a bit clearer what we're doing. So that's the pivot. Yeah, you've also got this boomerang arrangement that holds the spring, and of course the brake spring. But that spring is really strong. Yeah, they're a bit of a sod to get back on, they are, from previous experience, but I'm sure we can manage. So I've jacked it up. I've just put the stand in its up position to take the tension off that spring, and for a bit of safety I've got a ratchet strap around the front, around the rack at the front, and the wheels clamped as well, so the bike isn't going to fall over, and it keeps it down at the front. It's not going to collapse, because the last one thing we want is the bloody thing to fall off the bench, which I have had happen to me before, and it wasn't very nice. So armed with a long punch and a hammer, I'm going to knock that pin out now. There'll be springs and shit flying everywhere, so cover your eyes. Maybe that wasn't so bad. Yeah, see, I must have taken this off before, because it's actually in quite good condition. It's not seized in or rusty or anything. It's really good. I do tend to spray liberal amounts of chain lube and stuff, but the brake arm has stayed where it was quite nicely, so that's good. So this should come out now. I'm going to have to take that spring off. So I've got a few different tools for dealing with springs. A proper exhaust spring puller. This snap-on angled spike, and just an old screwdriver that I've ground down to a point. All three do the job. Let's try that one first. Or just a screwdriver sometimes does it. It's a bit awkward because the camera's in the way. Let's do it that way. Hope you can still see. No, springs are an absolute pain sometimes. Nearly off. And there, she's off. Wish me luck getting that lot back on. So we've got all the component parts here. One really grubby, horrible stand. Yeah, what a mess. The stand pivot, which is in really good condition. That'll just clean up nicely. That'll just clean up an oily rag. And I thought while it was off, I'll clean this up a bit. See some scars on there where I've touched it down going around the corners. Right. So we'll do the worst job first. Clean this bloody thing. So I've got a variety of methods of attack. Drill with a wire brush, a little pronged attachment, and the good old orbital sander. So as you can see, the orbital sander attack is quite good. Try this now. So all the paint is pretty much gone. Yeah, that'll do. So what I'll do, I'll use one of my hooks I made. Just hang it up like so. Get some paint on it. So I'm going to use this zinc primer. Give it a good shake. strap the fan on. So I've forced dried that with the hot air gun while it's still nice and warm. I shall get me black on there. I'm using satin black. So while that paint's drying, just turn our attention to this. Just give that a quick clean off with a wire wheel and puff a bit of silver over it maybe. Does that need a bit of silver, or should I just leave it? Where's that 80 disc gone? Yeah, I think we'll leave that side because that's quite good condition. So what I've decided to do is just spray a bit of zinc on that. Literally that. And we'll get the hot air gun on it again, like we did the other pieces. Going to puff a little bit of clear lacquer over that. That is actually quite a good copy of as it was, like the zinc, the coating on the other side. I don't want to put too much on it so it's shiny. Just enough to like seal the surface. pretty good. That's quite hot where it's got, yeah, that is hot. Yeah, quite pleased with that. So that's that bit done. Put that to one side and give the spring the same treatment. So what we've got left, our pivot, stand pivot. Yeah, that's in really good condition, that is. Really good. The WD-40 is actually quite a good cleaner, degreaser. As a lubricant it isn't that brilliant, but it is good for cleaning. Yeah, that's in mint condition, that is. No wear on it at all. Pleased with that. That's ready to go back on. So we've just got the rear brake. I'm not too fussed about this really. I think I'll just clean this up. Bit of that Scotch-Brite with WD-40. We'll just clean out the pivot. Yeah, nice and clean. Yeah, lovely that is. So that's those components all ready to go back on when the stand's dry. I'm just going to have a cup of tea while I wait for those bits to dry in my nice Cornish mug. So that's all our parts cleaned up. Paint's dry. I'll put the rubber stop back on there. Nice and shiny. Yeah, lovely. I like it when it's shiny. Take our pot of grease and we'll get it back on. So we're ready to start reassembly. Got all the parts here. So the first thing I need to do is put this little thing on. Now that, if I remember rightly, went that way round. Correct me if I'm wrong. Put our spring back on the brake rod. got the brake. So that's the brake arm in place. So what I'll do now, I'm trying to remember how this goes. So this spring goes that way round on the brake arm, and this little adjuster spring, or the switch, little thin switch spring, goes inside that one. Remember when we took the engine out, this is why I didn't want to take the spring off to get to that nut, because this is proper faff, this is, to get it all back in again. Yeah. So our brake lever is in place now. Right, let's put that through there. The grease is going to squidge everywhere, but it doesn't matter. So we can't go too far through with it, because the stand has got to go in place. Put some grease in there. Right, so we've got it started. Some excess grease. So that's in. Just going to get the spring on now. That's where our spring puller comes in handy. Right, we're on. Scratch the paint a bit on top, but that's okay. It's on there. Cool. So around the other side, there's all that holds that on is just a little split pin. There's no washer either, it just goes straight into a split pin. Difficult to see up in there, I can't see, so I'm sure you can't. I'll just fold the clip over, and that's it. Cool. Makes the side stand look grubby now, doesn't it? Can't do much about that though. I'm not taking that off yet. That's a job for another day. Because again, you've got the nightmare spring. Pulling those on and off isn't very nice. Right, let's we can take our jack down now. Down. So that's the stand's done. Yeah, quite pleased with that. Should be good for another few years. So the stand's all done. I'll put the exhaust back on. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So we'll turn our attention to the front mud flap now, the lack of which caused our trouble with the stand. Super thin and flexible. Got one on the other side to do, and that's it. That should work well. So I hope some of you found that useful. Handy to know how to get your centre stand off and give it a good service. Get that grease in there, because it will seize up if you don't look after it. That should be good for another 20 years. Certainly with me owning it, because I like to keep it covered in grease and oil. So that's it for this one. Hopefully we'll get out somewhere for the next one. See ya.